Welcome back to the shop, my friends. Steve here at SKS Props, and in today's build video, to go along with Akarune's mask, I made Aira's mask from Dandadan. And the thing I love about this character is she has several different transformations. So you could definitely use this as a half mask, just like it is on the template, or leave the half off and just have the jawline down below. It's completely up to you. And if you would like to make your own, I of course have free PDF files available for this over on my website with links down in the description. Now this mask is of course made all out of my HD foam, which you can find over at Blick Art Materials. And if you want to continue to support me in the channel, by all means go through the links that are in the description section and those that are on my website. So I want to show you what it takes to put Aira's mask together and paint it. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start crafting this mask by using part A. This is going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam and will make up the lower jaw. Part B is going to be traced and cut out of some 4mm foam. This is going to be the gums on the left and right side and what the teeth will attach to. Using a pencil, I can trace the placement of part A onto part B. Super glue is applied to part A and then attached to part B. Now notice that I'm gluing these pieces together while the mask is bent. That way it will better conform to the face. Now I'm going to craft the teeth, and these are going to be traced and cut out of some 4mm foam. After all the teeth have been cut out, the sides of each tooth can be rounded over with a smooth sanding drum. When gluing the teeth into place, I would recommend to start in the middle and then work your way to the outside. Go back and forth, and this will help you line the teeth up for a good fit. The last tooth in the line before it jumps up to the jaw is going to be a little bit longer. This is going to help the transition between the lower gum and the upper area. If parts A and B are a little too small for your face, feel free to extend the ends to fit you properly. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue down the upper teeth on the right side. The ones in the middle will line up with the lower row. However, when you get to the outside, these are going to overlap onto the bottom teeth. A strip of 2mm foam acts as a spacer underneath the 5th tooth in. This is going to help give it a gradual transition from the front to the side. And here you can see how all the teeth line up. Part C is going to make up the upper portion of the skull, and this is going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam, making sure to note the cut on the right side of the eye. This cut is going to be glued together as an overlap. This is going to help give some additional form to the flat foam. I marked the placement of part C with a pencil onto the teeth before gluing it into place. Now feel free to change the placement of this piece to fit you. Using a smooth sanding drum, I can now sand down that overlap section on part C. Part D will make up the cheekbone. This is also going to be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. Placement is once again going to be marked with a pencil before I glue it down. And note, just like the lower jaw, I'm curving the foam as I'm gluing this piece down. This will make the foam keep this rounded shape and help it conform to your face. Part E will make up the eyebrow and will also be traced and cut out of some 6mm foam. Using my smooth sanding drum on my rotary tool, I'm going to sand down the edges of parts E and D to give them a more organic shape. And just like the other sections, part E is going to be glued down while the foam is rounded over. With parts D and E adhered to the mask, I can now sand them down a little bit more. This is going to minimize that transition and help them blend more into the mask. Switching over to a small stone bit, I'm now going to use the very edge of this to carve some grooves into the mask. And with the lines, I drew them on with a pencil beforehand. That way I could just kind of follow the general direction. And I'm basing the carvings off of pictures in the manga. I also take this time to add some additional details by removing foam from the top of the skull with a hobby blade. With all of these sections sanded, I can now lightly heat seal the surface. To make the lower lip, I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch strip out of some 4mm foam. I leave a little bit on the back edge to wrap around, but the rest of the strip can be glued down to the top cut of part A. When I get to the very end, any excess foam can be removed, and I can wrap around and glue down the end of the foam. With the strip adhered, I'm now going to lightly sand the edges of this to give it a more rounded shape. The upper lip will be made out of part F. This is also going to be traced and cut out of some 4mm foam. Just like the lower lip, excess foam can be trimmed away at the back and front. The edges of the upper lip will also be slightly sanded to round them over before being heat sealed. For the cutout design around the eye, I'm going to be using my heat tool, which means I'm definitely going to wear my respirator. Placement for my cuts is marked around the eye with a pencil. And then after the heat tool had properly heated up, I could then burn the design into the layers of foam. Now if you don't have a heat tool, you could also try to do this with a small drill bit or hobby knife. To prime my foam, I'm going to be using 2 light coats of gray Plasti-Dip. This is going to be followed up with a dusting of Valspar Flat White. Liquitex Mars Black is going to be applied as a wash over the entire surface. This pigment will get down in between the teeth and all of the grooves that I've carved into the mask. A damp paper towel can then be used to blot away additional pigments, before going back with a small detail brush making sure that the paint got down into the gums. To paint the teeth, I'm going to be using Liquitex Parchment. This is going to be applied with a small filbert brush and a couple of different watered down layers. The first layer is applied just to help fill in the pores and cover the surface. The second layer is applied with less water and more pigment for a more opaque look. While that paint layer dries, I'm going to use a small detail brush to paint all of the gums black. The detail brush is also going to be used to add the watered down black pigment into the grooves that I had carved into the mask earlier. This is going to help all those details stand out and give it a more anime look. The same Mars Black is also applied with a detail brush into the marks that I had burned into the mask. For her lips, I'm going to be using some cobalt green and some cadmium red. The cobalt green will help desaturate the red for the first layer. Now, even though this pigment is very watered down, be very careful not to get it on any of the other sections. Because these paints are cobalts and cadmiums, they will stain and will be very difficult to get them off. Most likely, you'll have to repaint over those areas, so take your time during this process. And as you can see here, I switched up to a very small brush to paint the outermost edges. For my second pass, I'm going to use more of just the cadmium red, but I'm not adding this everywhere. I'm applying it more as a highlight to certain sections. Some additional parchment is dry brushed to the top of the eyebrows and the top of the cheeks. From a distance, this will definitely help define those sections a little bit better. As an additional detail, I applied some Vallejo gloss to the lips and to the teeth. The gloss is going to help these areas separate themselves a little bit more from the matte finish of the rest of the mask. To cover the backside of the eye so the wearer can see out but others can't see in, I'm going to be using some black chiffon fabric. This is going to be cut to size and then hot glued into place. Additional fabric can be trimmed away with scissors once the material has been glued down. To attach the mask to the head, I'm going to be using some 3/4 inch elastic. Now I'm going to glue this elastic from the upper right skull to the lower left jaw. Now the elastic itself probably won't hold this mask to your face because of that angle, but it's going to work perfect for using bobby pins to secure it to your hair or your wig. Once you have the mask fabricated, you can determine which way works the best for you. To secure the ends of the elastic and to make sure they don't pull away, some additional strips of 2mm foam were super glued on top. And at this point, our mask is complete. So you all can see what it takes to put Aira's mask together from Dandadan. And again, if you'd like to make your own, free PDF files can be found over on my website. And if you are building any of my builds or utilizing some HD foam, be sure to tag me at SKSProps on Twitter and Instagram because I love seeing your creations. Until next time, build your best with the best HD foam.